All right. Well, welcome everyone. Well, amazing to have you here. Like I mentioned, it's hard to believe that the summer is quite literally right around the corner. Daylight savings is a couple weeks, and we're very excited to have you all here for the Summer Vista program orientation. We will get to cover, the whole program model and talk about the MOU. We had over 200 asks for vistas this summer. So it looks like we're going to be placing 200 summer vistas again, which is super exciting across the country. We've been really lucky and fortunate to have this program run the last 3 years, and we're very excited to work with some of you again and to have some new partners join us for the summer program this year. And so we today are going to do a pretty brief program overview. We're going to talk about the MOU, and we're going to talk about the onboarding schedule. And then we'll have time at the end if you have any questions. As we're going through this today, if you have questions that pop up along the way, do not hesitate to put those in the chat so that we can cover them all at the end. But before we get started, I want to introduce myself. You may have seen my face before. We may have discussed programming, or you've just seen my name in an email. But my name is Kim. I am the Assistant National Director of the VISTA program. So I have the pleasure of overseeing our entire VISTA team, but then also really being responsible for the summer and the full year programming and making sure that we're meeting the AmeriCorps guidelines and all of that. So I'm very excited to work with you and be here today. And then I also wanted to pass it over to Danielle, who will also be working with the summer VISTA team this year.
Hey everyone, I'm Danielle, the VISTA program director. I support a small set of organizations in the full year program, and then also will help to support the summer program. Excited to be here, and I will pass it over to Max.
Hello everyone, my name is Max. I am the program leader for the East, pretty much supporting the full year program. Did the summer program last year, but this year Danielle will be supporting you all in this process. And I'll pass it on to, is Chloe here?
Nope, just me. So that's the team for the East Coast. And so very excited to, like I said, work with you. I've set up Worm Sky a million times, so it must be real. So we're going to jump in. So I want to make sure in this process that it's pretty clear how this whole thing works. Some of you have worked with us in past summers. Some of you it's brand new. Some of you work for the full year, and this might look pretty familiar. But what we've seen is a lot of times with our summer program or even our full year vistas, they're not really sure like what AmeriCorps is, what Up to Us Sports is, how it all fits together. And so AmeriCorps sits at the top of this flow chart, and they're the ones that offer us the grant, and they're able to provide us with these 200 summer VISTA slots that we can place nationally. So all of the vistas who serve this summer will be in the Up to Us Sports program, and they'll be doing that at your site as a summer VISTA. And then you at the site are really responsible for like the recruitment of the VISTA, managing them day to day in all of their projects and all those types of things. So they are a summer VISTA in the Up to Us Sports program at Uptown Soccer. They're a summer VISTA in the Up to Us Sports program at Harlem Lacrosse. Wherever the VISTA is serving, that's how the structure of it really looks. And so a lot of times we've had sites express that they're not really sure how to explain how this fits together. And I think it's really similar to like when you have program participants who are in your soccer program, but potentially the program's being funded by an outside source. So that's essentially what this looks like. You have participants, they're participating in our program, and it's all being funded through AmeriCorps and through your cost shares as well. And so that's really what this flow chart looks like of who works together and who's really mandatory, responsible for what. And so I also want to make sure it's really clear who the responsibilities and where they lie between AmeriCorps, Up to Us Sports, and you as a host site. And so, as an AmeriCorps member, we at Up to Us Sports, and then you as the program participants, AmeriCorps really is responsible for approving all of the sites that we partner with. So that includes all of you, and that includes our grant proposal and including all the information in there, all of the opportunity listings, any of the applicants that you decide to move forward with in the Summer Vista program, that's all approved by AmeriCorps through their systems. They're also responsible for making sure that Up to Us Sports, and then we in turn are ensuring that you at program sites are monitoring compliance, making sure we're following policies and procedures of AmeriCorps, and really, doing what we need to do to uphold the ideals of the AmeriCorps office. And then AmeriCorps is responsible to the VISTAs for ensuring that they get their living allowance, that it's paid on time biweekly, and they make sure that they get their end of service benefit, which is either a cash stipend or an education award. And then they facilitate the virtual member orientation, which is on their very first day of service. And that's really when they take their oath into being an AmeriCorps member. Even though this is a short 9-week program, they still go through that process of becoming an AmeriCorps member and then serving for their 9 weeks. And then Up to Us Sports also has some responsibilities to AmeriCorps. What we're really responsible for is managing all the reporting and the financial oversight of the grant. For the summer program, this doesn't really affect you too terribly much. There isn't a lot of extra work that you'll have to do in terms of reporting, but you as a site really have to be pretty mindful that this is a short program period. It's only 9 weeks. And so when you're thinking about the process of training and bringing on these individuals into your summer program, it's important that you think about the orientation, how you're going to seamlessly bring them into your program. Want to make sure that you're able to support and mentor them throughout the 9 weeks, because while it is short, it is also enough time for a VISTA to have a meaningful impact at your organization. And so we want to make sure that the projects are sustainable and also, I guess, manageable over 9 weeks, and that there's something that's a beginning and a middle and an end for that project goal. And then, we are responsible for answering all AmeriCorps related questions that come from members, that come from sites, and all of that. And then our responsibility to the VISTA is to really support them in the onboarding process. It can be, we'll go through the entire nomination and onboarding process, but we make sure they have the forms filled out, the application filled out, that they're nominated. And then once they get nominated, that they filled out all of the processes and the forms that AmeriCorps requires, whether it's their financial information to get paid, their tax information, all that. We support them, making sure that gets done and complete. Each of the summer vistas will also have a cohort leader that also supports them. So they are going to have someone who they can go to for the entire 9 weeks with questions, with concerns, with anything they may need in order to feel successful over the 9 weeks. And then for the summer program, the Up to Us Sports does offer 2 professional developments that we ask that the Vistas attend, as well as optional events and webinars and professional development opportunities throughout the entire 9 weeks. And so that's really what our responsibility is to the Vistas, to you as the program site, and then to AmeriCorps. And then from there, thinking about your host site's responsibilities, to AmeriCorps, you have no responsibilities at all. So that's really nice for you at the program as a program partner. And then to Up to Us Sports, it's really to make sure that you know the program limitations, the program policies and procedures, but then also, we do have the cost share payment that we'll talk about more in the later slides, and making sure you make those payments on time, making sure that you meet the timelines and the deadlines that are set out by us at Up to Us Sports, but then also that you're allowing your VISTA to attend those programmatic elements, and that you're supporting them as they work through their entire 9 weeks of service. And then as the summer VISTA, what your responsibilities to them are is really the management from day to day. So this is really making sure whoever's supervising the vistas has the capacity to answer questions, ensure that they understand what the project scope is. Sometimes some vistas need a little bit more support and guidance than others, so really having the capacity to be able to work with them. We do ask that as a supervisor or the host site that you meet with the vistas at least once a week consistently to check in with them, to make sure they know their projects, their timelines, if they have questions about any of those things. So they always have a really standard 30-minute block of time that they know they can meet with you and do things, and then have informal check-ins throughout the week, and really just be there as a support system for the Vista. For some of them, this is going to be their first time in maybe a more professional like setting, even though it's for 9 weeks in the summer, and really helping them foster in those professional and personal growth points over the 9 weeks. And what I really think is important to talk about is that the summer program, like I mentioned, is 9 weeks, and they are serving in a full-time capacity, which is about 35 to 40 hours per week for the entire 9 weeks this summer. And so I think it's really important to think about them is they look and they feel, and a lot of times they act like a full-time employee, but they aren't. And so if in the summer programming you do have times when you're working 50 or 55-hour weeks, to really think about the scope of this Vista's term, and then making sure that their projects and responsibilities are appropriate, but also that you're keeping their service within like an appropriate time, because they are getting paid a living allowance that's fairly meager, and we want to make sure that we're being respectful of not only their skills but of their time as well. And so just making sure we're balancing that out appropriately. Not to say that a Vista should not be working a full-time schedule or maybe a couple extra hours here and there, but if it's scaling more towards 50-55 hours a week, we may have to pull back some of their responsibilities in order to meet that more so full-time schedule. And so from now, I want to pass it over to Danielle, who's really going to talk about the program overview and give you a little more insight into the summer program.
Thanks, Kim. So the Summer Vista program is a 9-week commitment, and we don't have the exact dates from AmeriCorps yet, but we're anticipating that it's really going to begin in mid-June and then end around mid-August. And then like Kim mentioned, Vistas are really full-time, and they should be working around 35 to 40 hours per week. We really say like the minimum requirements are around 30 hours so that it is full-time. And then there is some flexibility around like when they can complete these hours. If you have like a night event or weekends, they are able to work on the weekends, but just factoring that in to make sure that they aren't going well above the 40-hour mark per week. And then Vistas receive a living allowance. This comes directly from AmeriCorps, whether the Vista is like living with their parents or has a roommate or is living on their own, all Vistas will receive this living allowance. And it's like a paycheck. And then in addition to that, Vistas will have the opportunity to either choose between an education award or an end of service summer stipend, and they will receive this if they successfully complete the 9-week program. And for the work from home policy, AmeriCorps does allow Vistas to work remotely as a result of COVID. We just really want to make sure that you are following state and local guidelines. And if you are working in the office, then it is safe for your Vista and things like that. And then AmeriCorps doesn't require vaccines, but it's really up to your organization and site. And if you do require vaccines, that's okay. We just ask that you're really upfront about this. So like when you are recruiting and interviewing Vista members, you let them know from the beginning that you are requiring vaccines. And then as far as PTO, the program is so short, it is 9 weeks. So AmeriCorps doesn't provide additional PTO to Vistas the summer program. But if there's any like holidays that your organization has, like 4th of July, if you're off, then your VISTA is able to take that day off as well. And then we do understand that there may be times where the VISTA has to like take a day or something comes up where they're sick or whatever it may be. There is some flexibility for you to award like 1 or 2 days. But then we just ask that the VISTA makes those days up. And then the last thing is if there is a true emergency where like a family member gets sick or something happens, there is a process where we can put in emergency leave, and it has to be approved by AmeriCorps, but there is a possibility for the VISTA to get up to 5 days of emergency leave. But we really do want to highlight that it has to be like a true emergency, and it can't just be that your VISTA is going on a summer vacation or anything like that. And then I really want to talk through the living allowance and the end of service stipend. So like I said, each VISTA does receive a living allowance payment, and this comes directly from AmeriCorps. We do not pay the VISTAs, and they will receive this bi-weekly via direct deposit. And then also, since it is coming from AmeriCorps, they're the ones that set the amounts and everything like that. And it is determined by the poverty line that your county or of the county that your organization is located in. So if your VISTA is like living in New York City, but they're working out of your Baltimore office, then they would receive the living allowance of Baltimore. So that's really important. And then the living allowance typically ranges from about $2,500 to $5,000 for the entire duration of the 9-week program. And we will send over a chart, and it lists like all of the counties. So we really recommend like going in and finding the county that your organization is in, and then you'll be able to really see the day rate that they are given. And then also there's a total rate. So like multiplying the day rate times 63 to find the total amount that each VISTA will receive in this 9-week program. And then for the end of service award, at the beginning of their term, they will choose between either an education award or a cash stipend. They only have the choice of one, and the education award is around $1,374. And they can use the education award for like any existing loans they have or any future education classes that they may take, and they have up to 7 years to use it. And then the cash stipend is $311, and there's no limitations for how they use the cash stipend. That just comes in their last like living allowance payments. And for the summer program, we also have like a pretty comprehensive schedule that we offer as an additional support for the VISTAs during the summer. So if you look on the left-hand side, you really have the schedule laid out of what we offer each week. So like the first week, we will have an orientation where we really like walk them through the program, the requirements, and the benefits. And then each additional week, there will be like some sort of support. So each summer VISTA will be assigned a cohort leader, and this is really their main point of contact at Up to Us Sports. So the cohort leader will have 3 check-ins with the VISTAs throughout the program, and it's really a way to make sure like everything is going well at their site, and they can answer like any questions that the VISTAs may have. We also have a data collection piece, and this takes place every week throughout the summer program. So we'll give each VISTA a template, and they'll really track their progress each week. And we use this data to report on the program and to report to AmeriCorps, but we also found that it's like a really great tool for the VISTA members themselves, and they can really like look at all of the amazing things they're doing this summer, and they can track like the amount of money they helped raise or the number of documents they created, how many like social media followers they gained. So it's really this tool that they can have after their summer term to like pull these quantifiable numbers and talk about the impact that they had throughout the summer. And then the last piece is that we offer 2 professional development opportunities, and it's really just a chance to offer this like additional professional development growth throughout the summer. So I know this like looks like a lot, but it's really not. And it should take about like 5 hours out of the entire like summer term for each VISTA. So now we're going to shift a little bit more into like the process and the timelines moving forward. So the Up to Us Summer VISTA program is a capacity building program. And we really ask that VISTAs are working within these 5 programming areas. So the first one is program operations, like helping out with any summer camps, helping with curriculums, helping like track coach gear and things like that. They can also work in development, so with like grants, donor databases, prospect research, marketing. A lot of like the Vistas will really take on the social media platforms. And then the fourth one is community engagement. So like helping to recruit volunteers or plan events in the community or hand out resources. And then the last piece is coaching. So this year, Vistas are able to coach and do direct service during the summer program only. So if you want them to help out in like your summer camps, that's fine, and they can take on this coaching role. And then we really just want to highlight that Vista shouldn't be working in like all of these 5 areas, but really thinking about like picking 1 or 2 that you think really makes sense, because we want the Vistas to take on like ownership and have these big projects. And it's just such a short term that they can't really do all of these things to really make it impactful. So really selecting like 1 or 2 bucket areas for your Vista to focus on. And this is the timeline of all the things and like what to look forward to in the future. But we will have a SAD training, which stands for Summer Assignment Description, and we'll get into this. But it really will outline kind of your project goal for what your VISTA role will look like. And then we will also have a recruitment training. And then from there, you'll really start to recruit your VISTA candidates. Each VISTA has to apply through like an opportunity listing for the role that's like required by AmeriCorps. So we will send over this link. Your VISTA will apply to this link, and then you will also nominate your candidate. You'll let our team know like who you want to move forward, and then we will really work with that candidate to make sure that their application is complete. We will nominate them, and ultimately they will like formally accept the position in the My AmeriCorps portal. And that is all due by May 22nd. And then once your VISTA accepts the position in the My AmeriCorps portal, they will receive like a guide to entering their summer service term from AmeriCorps. And that will really outline like all of their onboarding requirements. So they will attend an onboarding meeting and complete like several different onboarding forms. And then the last thing is the VMO, which stands for the VISTA Member Orientation, and that's on their first day of service. And then all of their really like onboarding forms must be due by June 6th, so that they're really like ready to start mid-June for their VMO date. And I will pass it back to Kim.
Great. And then that was a pretty comprehensive program overview. If you do have questions that are popping up from that section, please put them in the chat. We'll cover all questions after we discuss the MOU and part of this process. So I just want to make sure that as questions do arise, you feel comfortable asking them. And so for the MOU process, when you got your welcome email over the last week or so, we did send a PDF version of the MOU. And so that is not the version you're going to sign. That was just, like we mentioned, a way for you to review what was in the MOU, and you could come to, this meeting with any questions you might have. We are going to take a minute to review about 4 key areas that are pretty important that I want to highlight that are in the MOU for you. The MOU we will send is from Adobe Sign, and that will be signed virtually by a member of your team at your site. You should get this virtual MOU sometime today or early tomorrow. And then we will have until March 11th to sign the MOU. We extended that deadline out by a week. And so what I really want to make sure that we highlight in this conversation is the cost share, the refund policy, some programmatic things. Danielle really went over them, but just to highlight a couple key ones. And then what happens if a member exits or quits in part of their service term. And so there is a $300 cost share per VISTA. This will be invoiced as one payment. And so that will be due within 30 days of signing the MOU. So by end of next week, you'll have about a month once that invoice is issued. And then this leads, I think, more promptly to our refund policy. And so I want to be like really clear about the refund policy so everyone's on the same page. We are giving a little bit more room for you to decide that maybe you don't want to move forward with the summer program. So prior to April 15th, if you're like, we thought we could really do this, this isn't really something we want to do, you can cancel the agreement prior to April 15th and you can get refunded the full $300 per VISTA that you are refunding back. So if you get awarded 5 VISTAs and you're like, really, we only want 2, we can refund you for the 3 VISTAs that you're giving back. Anywhere from April 15th through June 20th, which is through their first week of service, if you decide that if you can't find a VISTA, if you can't recruit anybody, if the VISTA quits in the first week, you will get a $200 refund of the entire $300 cost share per VISTA. Anything after June 20th or their first week of service, there will be no refund given. So you'll just be, you'll have the total cost share of the $300. So that's really what our refund policy is looking like for the Summer VISTA program this year. If anyone has any questions about that, please feel free to pop it in the chat. And then Danielle really went over a lot of really amazing programmatic elements. And so when you're thinking about signing the MOU and moving forward with the program, we really just ask that you're being very conscious about the programmatic things that we ask and that you are ensuring that your VISTA participates in data collection, but also in the things that we provide to the VISTAs over the summer. We want to make sure from this experience that they're growing professionally, but they're also growing personally, and they're having a great time at your site. It's also important to note that throughout the summer with the work that they're doing, we have to make sure that while serving, they're not doing any projects that are like lobbying to the government or to Congress or anything like that, and voter registration or drives, helping at the polls. All of the work that they're doing at your site has to be done with a nonpartisan lens. That doesn't mean that when they're on their free time, they can't be doing any of those above activities. But while they're at your site, they can't be participating in those activities. And then I also want to just make sure we make really clear, right now, remote service is available for the Summer VISTA program. I don't have any future knowledge of this changing from AmeriCorps, but there may be, they may switch the policy where VISTAs have to transition back to being in person or being at your site in your hybrid model. And so I just want to highlight that. So as you're thinking about recruiting in the next couple months, it may make sense this summer to recruit more local than national when you're thinking about these roles. As AmeriCorps releases more information about COVID, about remote work, all of those types of things, we will keep you updated 100%. But I do just want to asterisk that last little note there that as of now, Summer Vistas can work in a remote capacity, but moving forward, that may or may not change depending on AmeriCorps policies. And then finally, what I really want to touch base on is exiting members. So Vistas are able to resign at any time if they get another job. If they decide they don't like serving, they can, let you know, and they can leave service and they can go through that process of removal. In order for a Vista to be removed from service from your site, there takes a little bit more effort. So if it is a performance related issue, something like, maybe they're not coming to meetings on time, or maybe their work just isn't quite what you want it to be, we have to go through a process of really documenting out that there have been repeated efforts that were made to improve the VISTA's performance. The VISTA was not put on a clear plan. Everyone needs to be like pretty clear that the VISTA is going to be removed from service when we get to the point of bringing it to AmeriCorps. Because ultimately AmeriCorps is the only body that can remove a VISTA from service. And we want to make sure that if it does get to that point with your members, that we have everything in place to then, bring to AmeriCorps and say, like, this is just not working out anymore. I want to say to the caveat of that, we don't really have the opportunity to refill for summer. So if your VISTA exits in the middle of summer, then that's kind of it. There isn't an opportunity to put someone else in there or replace them in the program. It's just that they're done, and now we're moving forward with the remaining VISTAs you may have, or the partnership ends for this summer, and we can move forward with trying again next year, however that looks. If a summer VISTA does decide to exit early, they are typically ineligible for that end of service benefit, like Danielle talked about, the education award or the cash stipend. There are a few circumstances where they may be eligible for a partial award, but typically they don't receive that anymore, and then they don't receive any more of their living allowance. So if they exit 3 weeks in, they get the living allowance for those 3 weeks, but they don't get any of the remaining living allowance for their remaining 6 weeks of service. And then, like I talked about in the last slide, through June 20th, so I guess like June 21st forward, at this time, there will be no refund given for the VISTA if they quit anytime after that. And so those are like the 4 key areas that I think are most important to highlight from the MOU. I do highly encourage you to read it all, to ask any questions that may come up from other sections of the MOU, but those are really the key ones we wanted to highlight in this conversation today, so that those are very clear if you do decide to move forward and sign. And then Danielle really talked about, what happens up until May 22nd and then what happens through June 6th. But this is also just a pretty comprehensive overview of what the next couple months are going to look like. We did change a couple dates on here, and I want to make those really clear today. We pushed out the MOU date for signing until next Friday. Originally, it was due by this Friday, so we're giving people more time to review the MOU and really make sure that this is a program you want to move forward with. And then we pushed out the summer assignment description training by 1 week, so now it's on March 14th. And then we also changed the nomination and recruitment workshop to April 5th. And so the reason we did that is to give everyone a little bit more time and to be a little bit more aligned with some timelines that are coming up. Right now, like Danielle said, our anticipated start date is mid-June. We've submitted a request for June 13th. And so if that is the official start date and AmeriCorps agrees to move forward, we would really need to have everyone completely through the process by May 22nd. So then that the VISTAs have enough time to get all of their onboarding materials complete, and then we can move forward from there. And that is the general timeline for the next couple months. So now we will take any questions that anybody has. Max,
Yep.
are there any questions in the chat?
Can you just go back to the timeline real quick? I'm sorry, I was trying to jot down the dates real quick.
Yeah,
Thank
for
you.
sure. And we'll send out this timeline after the meeting as well. So you'll have those and the registration links in the times for sure. Are there any questions in the chat?
Yes, are we able to change the work location after signing the MOU?
What do you mean by that?
So right now, our location that we typically use still have some COVID restrictions, and we're not sure if we're able to use that site.
Mhm.
So we may, in fact, have to change our location.
Yeah,
So just wondering if we can change it.
yeah, that's for sure. That's okay. The VISTAs, if you have summer camps happening, if they're coaching and they're across a couple different sites, the VISTAs can work across all of the camps. We just want to make sure that whatever schedule you have is very clear to the VISTAs and they know where to be and when to be there.
Thank you.
We have some. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, I have a question. Is there an opportunity for the Vistas to also network? And or do you guys ever do that where they can network and share connections and resources, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so we have the 2 professional developments every for the summer, and then they're put into a cohort, a smaller cohort that they have a program leader for, and so they have an opportunity to converse within that cohort. And then we have what is called like a workshop series that we offer to the Vistas, and so there are different professionals that come in for shorter 30 to 45-minute sessions that they can meet with those professionals or other members of the group. And then last year we had like a panel come on where they could also talk and network with those individuals as well. So there are a few different opportunities. Because our program is so large and it's across the country, there aren't really opportunities like in person for networking, unfortunately, but we do try to facilitate as much as we can in this virtual space, the opportunities to meet each other or talk to each other or share resources.
Hi, Kim. That was one of my questions too. And so I love all the opportunities that our Vistas will have to network and the things that you're offering. So my question was also if you could help us all as organizations network with each other. You know, like there's probably the opportunity for some of us to work together or help each other or collaborate on work. So if there was like a Google Doc that we could optionally throw in our contact information or something like that, that you could just help facilitate between this and or the full year VISTA program, there might be some neat opportunities for us to help each other scale as well.
Yeah, for sure. We can definitely create something like that. You know, as people move forward, we can ask if you want to be included on that, and we can create that 100%. Danielle, was there anything in the chat that we missed?
Yeah, there's a couple. The first one is there any way to shift the week that the Vista starts? So like 1 week earlier or end 1 week earlier?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we don't have any flexibility on the start date. We only really have flexibility on the end date. So all of our Vistas have to start. Right now, we've asked for June 13th because that's about the same time we started the program last year. So they would have to start within that timeline. The shortest, I guess, summer program that AmeriCorps offers is 8 weeks. So we could shorten the end date by a week on the back end, but we can't really change or extend like the start date. So I think the only way we can really moderately change it is if we want to shorten it to 8 weeks on the back end, and that would just have to be a certain circumstance in a case-by-case basis.
And can each site define like the nature of hybrid work and remote work, or is there like a definition that AmeriCorps Vista uses?
There isn't a definition right now. I think work from home or teleservice is really what the organizations determine. I think what's really important though, when thinking about remote or teleservice work is just, especially for the summer, is having really clear expectations of what you want the Vista to be doing. So if you expect them to be in front of their computer at home from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., then really set those expectations early and ensure that they're following them and things like that. One of the biggest challenges we found from last summer was remote work and just ensuring the Vistas were doing the things that were asked of them. So I think that's the only thing I would consider when having remote work, is just making sure there's some very clear boundaries and expectations for the Vistas.
And Eric had a question about the timeline. Is the SAD due on March 25th or is it actually April 25th?
I think it's March. I think those got moved around because this timeline was supposed to be in March as well. So I'll fix that and make sure that everyone has the correct chronological order. It's due March 25th.
Thanks. Those are all the questions in the chat for now.
Great. Well, we will stay on for a couple more minutes. I want to be, cognizant of everyone's time. If there are more questions, we will send out the slides. We'll send out, all of the information after this meeting. You should look for an email from Adobe Sign with the virtual MOU either later this afternoon or at the latest by tomorrow morning. And we are here to answer any questions, but we really do look forward to working with you this summer. And if questions do pop up, please don't hesitate to reach out. But thanks everyone so much for coming, and we'll be seeing you more over the next couple months.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I have just a question for further clarification about remote work. And this, I guess this relates not just to the summer vistas, but to other vistas as well. Are we able to define what is remote and what's hybrid for our organization in the process of hiring vistas?
Well, remote would be like never going to the office, I think, to a space. I think that you can define hybrid. Some people might be like, we're going in 2 times a week. It might be 3 times a week. It might be an AB schedule, whatever that looks like. I think in terms of remote, we really have to, we're defining it. And I think AmeriCorps is defining it as physically never going to an office, like working from a home base or something like that. And so, like I said, right now, Vistas are able to do that with no problem. I just don't know if AmeriCorps will be shifting that policy at all. So that's the only thing to consider. They haven't told me anything. We constantly ask about it, and they're always like, check the FAQs.
Yeah.
And so they aren't really like great about releasing that information, I would say, or like giving us like, it might be coming soon. So we really are at just at the timelines that they release information. But yeah, if we had to define, like put a definition on them, remote would just be like literally anything that's not in an office. And then hybrid is whatever schedule you have coming into a community workspace.
So if we would have, say, a fair amount of remote work, or if remote would be conceivably possible, we could list something as remote. But if we want to have the possibility that the VISTA be in close proximity, for example, living within 30 miles of a site so that the VISTA could get there to some things in person, then we determine that's hybrid. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that would be the best way to do it for sure. And I would just be really transparent about that in the interview process. Like, the whole thing will be remote, or, our expectation is that you are in office or at a site taking pictures 3 times a week. This is where our sites are. So you need to be close enough to do that. So I think in the process, it's just being really transparent about that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Pat.
Yeah, I do have one other question.
Yep.
Is there, in terms of, do you guys have any recommendations outside of normal channels to recruit potential VISTA volunteers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are working on a recruitment guide. And so we usually for summer, we recommend that sites look to any students who, if you work with high schoolers, recently graduated from high school and are 18 and might be interested in making some money over the summer. They're already, well familiar with your program, your model, and they're looking for like maybe more of a leadership role within your organization. Same if you have any recent alum who are back in town from college and they just, want to make some additional money plus having a living allowance to put towards college. Those are usually pretty good recruits because it's such a short time over the summer. I would say like local colleges and universities in your area, community colleges, anything like that, like touching base with the career services people there to get the position in front of students who may be staying in town for the summer and are interested in supporting youth. We also, I think it's like great to put out into your like newsletters. So if you work with younger kids, maybe their older siblings might be interested in supporting you. Parents might know people in the community. So that is a big one as well. Those might be like normal pipelines.
Is there would be, so when will we get the information so that when we're making the pitch to this potential recruits, what they can expect to earn as a VISTA volunteer?
So in the MOU, it will say, what your living allowance is for your organization. But then on April 4th, when we go over recruitment and nomination, that is when we'll give you all of the information when you go out and recruit, because that will give you about 6 weeks to find these members to serve at your site. So that'll be very, very comprehensive. What we wanted to use today's meeting for is just really a general overview of what's to come in the next couple weeks, but that meeting specifically will go into depth on how to recruit, where to recruit, the process of recruiting, who to recruit, and then how to talk about it. And then, what happens when you find someone, all of those types of things we'll discuss on April 4th or 5th. Sorry, April 5th.
Okay. All right. That's good.
Great. Well, Dudley, if you have any more questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
All righty.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.